One of the most shocking and controversial moments in Adventure Time history is when Finn loses his arm. But what if I told you that this single event wasn't just a dramatic plot twist, but actually pretty much rewrote the entire trajectory of the show and revealed secrets about the series that a ton of people, including myself at first, completely missed. So I'm going to trace the complete timeline of Finn's arm and uncover how it really changed Adventure Time forever and reveal the truth of the shocking ripple effects that this one injury created across the entire land of Paxw and Adventure Time itself. Let's start with the very first hint that something was going to happen to Finn's arm. All the way back in Season 5, Episode 1, Finn the Human. Well, technically there is an even earlier hint, but we'll talk about that a little later. In Finn the Human, Finn makes a wish to Prisma, and this creates an alternate timeline called Farm World. In this reality, we see a completely different version of Finn called Farm World Finn, and he's got a mechanical arm. Now at the time, this seemed like just alternate universal weirdness, right? You know, just a cool little detail to show how different this timeline was from the main one. But looking back, this was the writer's technically second major signal that Finn losing his arm wasn't just a possibility, it was going to be inevitable across multiple realities. And this wasn't the only hint. The foreshadowing continues in Season 5, Episode 16. In the episode Paxw, Finn lives an entire alternate life inside this pillow world, and in one particular scene, we see an older version of Finn who's missing his arm. Then in Season 5, Episode 34, The Vault, we get a flashback to one of Finn's past lives as this character named Shoko, and Shoko is also missing her arm. And if that wasn't enough, in Season 5, Episode 36, Dungeon Train, Finn has a vision of himself as an old man, still riding the dungeon train, and once again, missing his arm. There's an obvious pattern here. Across timelines, across past lives, across possible futures, Finn always loses his arm. It's almost like the universe itself is screaming that this is gonna happen no matter what. But the first time Finn actually loses his arm happens in Season 6, Episode 2, Escape from the Citadel. And I'm sure you've seen it, but this scene is pretty brutal. Finn finally tracks down his deadbeat dad, Martin, who's been imprisoned in the Citadel, which if you didn't know is this cosmic prison for the worst of the worst criminals in the entire multiverse. And in the chaos of trying to reunite with his dad, Finn's arm, which at this point has the cursed grass sword attached to it, ends up trying to stop Martin from fleeing, but ends up being ripped off due to the sheer force of the open wormhole. Martin wanted nothing to do with his own son and even told the Voidcaster to go a little faster so that they could leave his son behind quicker. Absolutely brutal. But it gets weirder. Remember when I told you that at this point Finn had the grass sword on his body? Well, the moment Finn tries to stop his dad from leaving, the grass sword almost activates and becomes this stronger arm, and that's when it gets ripped off. But as he falls into the water in the Citadel, the regenerative goo that turned the Lich into Sweet Pea ends up touching his arm, and this created this bizarre grass flower hybrid where his arm used to be. And at first, it seems like maybe this is part of the solution, like the grass sword was trying to protect him. But as we'll see, this is just the beginning of something much stranger. For several episodes after, Finn is rocking the bizarre grass flower arm, as we stated before, and the psychological impact on Finn during this time is pretty massive. And we see this most clearly in Season 6, Episode 4, The Tower. In this episode, Finn becomes obsessed with building this enormous tower to reach outer space to confront his father. But here's the thing. Out of nowhere, Finn gets this psychic arm made of his pure will and, as we'll see, anger. It's this ghostly translucent limb that I believe represents his denial of what just happened with his father and his inability to accept that that happened. He literally created a phantom replacement because he can't deal with this reality of his loss. The tower, the ghost arm, the rage, it's pretty much all Finn refusing to process his trauma. Then in Season 6, Episode 6, Breezy, the flower blooms and his arm regenerates, just like that. But this wasn't the end. In that episode, a bee named Breezy becomes enchanted with Finn's flower, and through a series of events involving the flower blooming and Breezy becoming a queen bee, something magical happened. His arm just grows back, flesh, bone, everything. He's whole again. And for a slight moment, it seemed like Adventure Time just hit the reset button. Like maybe this was just a multi-episode arc and now we're back to normal. But we're not back to normal, because the show doesn't just forget. Let's jump forward to Season 8, Episode 13, Reboot. And what do you know? Finn loses his arm again. And once more, it's the grass sword entity that makes him lose his arm again. While trying to not fight Susan, the grass sword goes over the Finn sword and is like, okay, I'm gonna be done with original Finn now and be my own person. So he latches on like a parasite to the Finn sword and becomes firm. And now Finn no longer has his arm once again. Except this time it's different. There's no magical regeneration, and it's almost as if Finn finally accepts it. He gets a mechanical arm built by Princess Bubblegum. It's robotic, it's permanent, and it's real. And crucially, Finn doesn't spend episodes trying to get his real arm back. He moves forward, he adapts, he grows up. So across almost the entirety of Adventure Time, we've seen hints that Finn will lose his arm. Watch Finn lose his arm twice, grow a grass flower, regenerate it, and finally settle on his mechanical replacement. But here's where it really gets interesting. This wasn't just character development. This was Adventure Time's incredible storytelling. Now remember when I mentioned that there was technically technically an even earlier episode where we get a hint that Finn will lose his arm. Well, all the way back in season 2, episode 24, Mortal Folly, we get the first clue that Finn will lose his arm. The entire Finn arm losing saga has been in progress since season 2 of Adventure Time. You might think that this was just a one-off thing that they decided to run off with later in Adventure Time, but I think this was done deliberately. You see, Mortal Folly was Adventure Time's first 2-part episodes, with the other being Mortal Recoil. These were very important episodes in the series, and I don't just think the writers would throw a one-off gag like that in such an important event. From the very beginning, the writers wanted Finn's arm to represent Adventure Time is about growing up, that real change is permanent, that consequences matter, and that you just can't keep returning to the status quo forever. The grass sword curse, the flower, the regeneration, and the final mechanical replacement pretty much mirror the exact stages of maturity. You have denial, temporary fixes, false hope, and finally acceptance of permanent change. Each phase of the arm represents a different stage of grief and growth. The grass sword was impulsive decision making, Finn grabbing at power without understanding the cost. The flower was magical thinking, hoping problems solve themselves if you just wait long enough, but that it always comes with a catch. And the ghost arm in the tower represented regression, a brief return to how things were. And the mechanical arm in Two Swords, that's acceptance. That's Finn finally understanding that who you were can't be who you are forever. But it goes even deeper. The arm changing is actually parallel to the entire show's evolution. Early Adventure Time could reset after any adventure, but later Adventure Time carried permanent scars. Finn's arm represents the show refusing to let time stand still, and the fact that this was planned from all the way back in season 2, that proves the writers knew from the very beginning that this show would be about growing up, about change, about the painful truth that you can't stay a kid forever, and as it turns out, it is. Adventure Time is one of those shows where it literally grew up with its audience, including myself. This kind of long-term planning shows up in the strangest places all over Adventure Time, like the episode No One Can Hear You. You know, that episode where Finn wakes up and Jake is acting completely wrong? I think I finally figured out what it actually means. And honestly, it's kind of way crazier than the Finn arm saga. And the clues were there the whole time. Click the video on screen now to find out. But as always, stay adventurous.